Hey everyone, welcome to Polly Not Live Weekly News this week. It's a pre-record for you. I'm currently hosting live the EMEA Partner Tech Summit. So I wanted to put this pre-record together, and we thought what we'd do is we'd make it more North American focused because you won't be on the EMEA Partner Tech Summit. So for all of you in North America and around the world, this is Polly Live Weekly News. We do this normally every Monday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time for you in the States, and 3 p.m. UK, 4 p.m. Central European Time. Or I'd love to hear from you actually where you're watching the show and what time zone it normally is for you. So make sure you put that in the comments and let me know. As I say, we've got a great guest lined up for this pre-record. We've got Cheryl Henshaw from Learn, Design and Apply, and they look after the Poly Grants offering that enables you as partners of Poly or even Poly customers to take advantage of some of the grants that are available from the government in North America for solutions for education and also for medical. You can get some of the great Poly products as well as subscriptions to Zoom, and Cheryl will be presenting actually at Zoomtopia this week, so make sure you catch her keynote there. So let's get into the show, run the credits, and bring Cheryl out to meet you all. Cheryl, how are you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me.
So what state are you? Whereabouts in the States are you?
I'm actually in Vermont, so I'm northeast, just about almost to Canada.
Awesome. And for those tuning in who don't know about Learn, Design, Apply and don't know about you, can you give us a little kind of introduction to both yourself and to Learn, Design, Apply?
Sure. So I am the president and owner of Learn, Design, Apply, which is a small grants management and consulting company. We actually provide grant consulting support to Poly. We developed the Poly Grants Assistance Program. That's really an investment that Poly makes to give back to its state and local customers, basically any organization who's interested in finding funding for to address a wide variety of problems that Poly Technologies and Services helps to address.
And so this has been obviously around for a while, but I'm guessing
Yes.
that you've been a little bit busier with regards to some of the stuff that's been going on.
Yes.
How's lockdown and the kind of whole COVID piece changed with regards to where you've come from and obviously where you are now?
Our world has changed completely, although, wow, hasn't everyone's, right? So we've never been busier, but I have to say, it's really rewarding in so many ways, even though we're a little exhausted at the end of most days. But there's so much need right now created by the pandemic. And so if we can help people better understand how to get funding, how to be compliant with that funding, that sort of thing, then it's certainly a win-win for everyone.
And this is funding not only for like education, but across many different aspects of the industries there as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. So, in the US, which is primarily where we spend our time, the federal government approved something called the CARES Act. And think of the CARES Act as like a big umbrella underneath of which there are many buckets. So, there are buckets for K to 12, higher education, cities, counties, big municipalities, and then, state and local agencies, libraries and museums. I could go on and on and on, but each have their own rules and focuses and timelines and little gotcha nuances like all grant programs. But healthcare, excuse me, healthcare and education, and then continuity of operation across all state and local agencies is primarily where we spend most of our time, just based on customer demand.
And what does a grant assistant program mean? What do you get? What's the deal with this, and how do people apply for it, I guess?
Well, there's two answers here. So one is pre and post pandemic, and the other one is now, right? So before the pandemic, and again, at some point after the pandemic is over, um, grant funding was primarily a discretionary opportunity. So that means you had to find funding, apply for that funding when it was competitive. And then once you got funded, you had to figure out how to get your money, what was required to be compliant again with the program. How do I prepare for audit, that sort of thing. So pretty lengthy process, but that's where we spent most of our time. Today, because there's immediate need, there's no time for a grant cycle, right? In most cases, excuse me, the federal government is throwing money at people. It's like a giant fire spraying money right now. So that's a good thing. but it's a challenging thing because they don't always provide the level of detail that people need to understand. How do I spend my money? Again, how am I compliant? That sort of thing. So the majority of our time right now is spent understanding who's getting the money, how much they're getting, what it can be spent on, what is the process by which they can qualify for this funding, and then helping them through that process. A lot of times they have a ton of choices, and but again, before and during and post pandemic, grant funding has been and will be about use case. What's my problem? How is this funding going to be used to help address that problem? And then, was I successful? So the government and again, foundation states throw money at problems because they want to see how as many people as possible solve that problem. So they look at this collective approach and they go, there's a lot more creative people out there than just my little group that's managing this agency. So let's see what they come up with. And then they track those results and they go, wow, this really worked. How can we replicate this? So it's a really kind of inventive way of trying to do problem solving.
And I guess the interesting thing and the dynamics of the states in North America is the fact that sort of every single state is kind of different. Specifically, if
Mhm.
we delve into education and kind of delve into that, you've got the higher education K through 12, but also different states are kind of locking down and unlocking it different. Some people are going back to school full time, some people are
Yes.
kind of not going to school at all, and then there is this kind of hybrid approach for them as well. And I guess that provides different challenges with regards to the grants and the packages that are being put together.
It not so much challenges with the grants, it's more like challenges with the solutions, right? So, for higher education, as an example, they received their CARES money and were able to start spending it back in like the April timeframe here. And so nobody knew in April what they knew now, right? I mean, there's no way they could have foreseen because nobody knows what's happening with COVID. Every time, organizations think they have a handle on it, surprise, there's a COVID outbreak. Oh my gosh, we have to change our plans, right? So, yeah, it's been really interesting to watch, organizations, higher education, K to 12 go, oh, this is how we're going to do things. And then boom, Johnny comes to school with COVID. He's
I just
asymptomatic.
wiped
Nobody
out the.
knows. Boom, everybody goes home. So this school who thought they had the solutions and man, they were going to be safe, they're upended. So
Wow.
I think that's been such a again, it's not just about the funding. The funding, the technology is just the means to an end. It's really helping people navigate this crazy world we're living in right now that is super fluid. So if you can help organizations, again, like higher education, K to 12 primarily, go, how can I do my job of delivering a meaningful, engaging education? And again, I'm not talking about a teacher at home as a talking head trying to talk to a tablet or, like this in their laptop. And that's all. Think about being a kindergartner or a first grader, and that's the kind of education you're getting, not very engaging, right? So think about how can we help adapt that educational experience and help teachers and the school districts, the higher education institutions, how can we help them transform education during this crazy time while keeping people safe? And how can we help them be fluid and flexible? Because again, what's happening today may not be the same in 2 weeks. So the hybrid approach is really catching on and spreading across the country. I mean, I've never seen this kind of demand in my life because once a school, let's just say, let's go back to my story, right? Where, oh my gosh, Johnny came to school, there's a COVID outbreak, everybody goes home. So now the school is going to sanitize, they're going to they're going to make sure they have a handle on, okay, everybody's well, nobody has COVID anymore, we can come back to school. But guess how many parents are going to be like, I'm not
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
expose my
No,
kids
no,
to
no,
that again, like
no.
no way. And so in many cases, they're going with a hybrid solution because some parents are going to go, hey, I don't enjoy my kids being educated from home, or maybe it's, necessity. I have to work.
Yeah, yeah,
I
exactly.
don't
Yeah.
have anybody to take care of my kids at home. I need my kids to go to school. So can you bring some kids into a classroom and keep some kids at home and have that be simultaneously engaging in a very similar, educational experience? So by going hybrid, again, using a poly studio is a great example. Take that studio, set it in the front row of the classroom, point it at the teacher, make the kids at home they're going to have the bird's eye view. They're going to be sitting in the front row of that classroom, so that teacher can move around and use her electronic whiteboard and go to a document camera and share sources. And they're right there with their peers. They're hearing questions asked. They're hearing the answers. They themselves can ask questions and receive answers in real time. It kind of takes the distance out of distance learning, to use an old phrase. Like it's such a cool experience, and it ticks so many boxes, right? Because it provides that flexibility. It keeps parents happy no matter whether you want your kid in school or not. You have that option. But okay, let's say Janie comes to school in 6 weeks, and boom, we have a COVID outbreak. That teacher can take that studio, unplug it, put it in her car, take it home, plug it in her own office. And again, she's untethered from her laptop or her tablet. She can use like a dry erase board behind her. She can mimic kind of that classroom setting and teach the way she's used to teaching, giving those kids, again, a more engaging, better experience, one like they're used to in the classroom while they're being educated from home. So it's really kind of a perfect, it's not perfect, because perfect would be there's no pandemic, but
Yeah.
it's pretty close to perfect.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I was chatting to my boss the other day. In the UK, it's kind of slightly different, but he's East Coast, and he was saying that his kids go to school kind of a couple of days a week to school, and then the couple of days a week they do homeschooling. Again, that's what they do
Right.
in his state. And again, I guess state by state and region by
It
region,
is
it's
different.
different. And again, depending on the level in that state and the level in that school that's going on. Now you beat me to the question around, this is great,
Sorry.
but what are we doing about this? What's the connection with Poly in all of this, other than obviously we've got some great technology we brought out for the classroom, but what's the tie up with Poly? Can you explain to the viewers around that?
Well, I think that Poly does have, solutions, technologies, services that help address this specific problem. They've done other things. I mean, so in my conversations, and this is kind of what I do all day long, every day, I talk to schools, higher education, hospitals, places like that. But there's so much commonality no matter where you are in the country, right? And the problems that you're facing. So if you kind of look at the key problems in K to 12, for instance, the one, it's that ability to be flexible, because heaven knows none of us know what's going to happen with this pandemic, right? So you got to be prepared for just about everything. The second thing is really pretty critical, and it's a simple one. So in a non-COVID world, there's always a big consideration of price. Like, oh, am I getting the best deal? Is this the less expensive product? That sort of thing. Price has flown pretty much out the window and been replaced by inventory access. Where can I
Right.
get product? Because supply chain has just been completely
Yeah.
disrupted.
That has
And
been a
so,
challenge around the
oh,
whole. Okay, yeah.
it's crazy. But one of the things that we've seen Poly do to step up, and I thought it was remarkably cool of them, is they've prioritized, education and state and local.
Yeah.
So anybody who's mission critical, they are building inventory at an incredible pace. They open new manufacturing facilities, that sort of thing, and they're prioritizing educational orders. So anytime, again, or, first responder hospital, that sort of thing. So anytime one of those orders come in, they go right to the top. So a really good example, there was a huge, one of the largest school districts in the country just recently made a purchase for, I think it was 6,000 studios. That's a big order, right? And that's a lot of inventory just to come up with. But actually, I know this order was placed on a Friday, and then the following Friday, one of the account managers posted, this particular school district received their product like
Yeah,
a week later. That's light speed. I'm not sure that happens in like a non-COVID world, right? So I think Polly is prioritizing this just in response again to educational need. Like this is a critical need, and so just having them ramp up the inventory specific to, again, the products that are specific to some of these high demand markets, and then prioritize the processing of orders and the shipment has been a huge thing,
yeah.
and the
I was
go
going
ahead,
to say
sorry.
that I mean,
Mhm.
we've done a fair bit of marketing, I think, on the Intel. There's been a couple of very large, and again, won't say the names because I don't
Huge.
know if they're public, but there has been those a couple of big ones where say it has been
Yes.
thousands of units that we shipped out to the
Yes.
schools. And again, they're using them in the classroom to then get the classroom out to the people remotely at home, sort of putting the studios
Yes.
in as you say, on the table, filming the teacher, so that then the guys at home can then get that bird's eye view of the
Yes.
classroom.
Yeah, I used the term untethered from their laptop, and I stole that blatantly from the CIO of one of these big districts where this CIO actually made a video. And I don't know if you've seen it, you can certainly share it at some point, but he made a video for his teachers and he said, here's the product studio. Here's a product we've purchased for you. And you don't have to use this, but should you choose to use this, like we highly recommend you use this. It's going to help you untether from your laptop. It'll allow you the ability to teach the way you normally teach and give you that ease and give your students that experience. And it's so true, And I thought the video was meaningful because it was authentic. We didn't ask
Mm,
him to do it, and
it's real.
he just
Always
gave
the
us a
best
copy.
ones.
And we're like, oh, this is gold,
Is it public? Is it on YouTube? Can we put a
Yes, it
link?
is. It's on
Awesome.
YouTube.
Let's
Yeah.
put a link
Mhm.
in the show notes in the description. So do make sure you check out that. We'll link that up in the description for you to
Yeah.
check out. Now, what about Zoomtopia? So Zoomtopia is this week, hot off the press. What's the tie up between Poly, Learn Design Apply, and Zoomtopia? What are you doing? What are we doing there around this piece?
Well, so I say this all the time. Zoom's now a verb. We're zooming. Um,
It is crazy,
Zoom,
isn't it? I mean,
it's crazy.
and I think we're certainly in EMEA, we're not as far advanced as you are in the States, but man, it's really really growing, and Zoom is a verb. My son does his Cub Scout session now virtually on Zoom.
Yeah.
My wife does her yoga meeting on a Monday on Zoom. It's just everything seems to be happening on Zoom.
One of my favorite pictures I have, in fact, it's my screensaver on my phone. I have my 3-year-old granddaughter sitting in her chair on a Montessori Zoom call doing yoga. So she's sitting here with her eyes closed and her legs crossed and her little fingers like this on a Zoom call with her Montessori class, and she's 3 years old. I'm like,
Wow,
Zoom ought to pay me for that picture. It's gold.
that's awesome.
But it's amazing. Again, the use case, that's what's meaningful. What we saw was a huge demand for Zoom. I think in some part, one, because Zoom has been so amazing about providing free licensing to a lot of people in a time of need, just really stepping up and being there to support, their end users, ramping up licensing like nobody's business, that sort of thing. But we're seeing the ease of use being one of those critical factors of why educators in particular are adopting this technology. And, you know, Zoom is an amazing product, and some people, might think Zoom and Poly are competitors, but they're really not.
Yeah.
They both add value in different ways, right? So Zoom is kind of that connectivity, took place of the old bridging and infrastructure, the on-prem, very expensive, somewhat complex, process. And now if you have a Zoom license, it provides that transport, it provides all those other things that the bridging used to do, but it doesn't necessarily untether that teacher from the laptop, right? So
Yeah.
Zoom kind of terminates traditionally on a laptop, a handheld, that sort of thing. And if you put something like a studio on the end of Zoom, again, it provides that additional flexibility, so you can create whole classrooms around, using Zoom as a transport. And we saw so much demand. And even in the grants that we were working on, so many people saying, hey, can we put Zoom licensing into our grant? Of course you can. And so it became a natural thing. Like, we work so closely with Zoom, and we said, we spend so much time on grants with our customers. Wouldn't it be great if we had a resource that was dedicated to Zoom Poly opportunities and things like that? So we put that person in place, I think, in June, and man, it's gone like wildfire. So yeah, we have this great resource that kind of lives in a Zoom Poly world all of the time now.
So as part of the grant, then they can get the hardware, the Poly hardware to obviously provide that connectivity to the laptop, and they can also
Hmm.
get the Zoom licenses then as part of this as well.
Yeah,
So it's the
yeah,
complete sort of end-to-end
it is.
scenario around. Again, you're talking about Zoom. One of the great things, it's when we first started talking about it was the fact that, or they had that sort of thing. It just works. You press the button, the magic happens, and it just works. And I guess if
Right,
you've got a whole
just
bunch of
works.
teachers and a whole bunch of students, they just need to
Yeah,
press something to magic happens, and they're having that, especially if it is that kind of mass evacuation on a Tuesday because, as you say,
Right.
someone's come in. It needs to be that kind of instant on, where if
Right.
you've got everyone going through a VPN into an MCU or whatever into the network, whilst there are benefits in that for certain enterprise organizations, the cloud and Zoom really have just made it so much more accessible for little Johnny to to dial in from home and to connect into the
Yeah.
classroom in that. So
Little
go on,
Johnny is probably more technology savvy than maybe,
the teacher.
grandma, or I mean, I use my mother as a litmus test. For the life of her, she cannot tend to get on most video calls, and she does a lot of video calls. She does a lot of work in Africa and other places internationally, with grant funding, remarkably. Um, but she has a real hard time with the connectivity, but she can get on a Zoom call. So I'm like, if my mom can do it, anybody can do
It
it.
has been amazing. We were talking, I think I run a previous show and both personally as well, that if you'd have had to have done this without the whole pressure of COVID, this would take years and years of change
Mhm.
control and of process and project management, project plans of how we're going to roll out
Yes.
digital learning and distance learning and it just would have never happened. And it literally has. It's happened. It's been successful, and in many cases, again, using some of the case studies that you were talking about, those big schools, actually, it's giving in some cases a better experience. The easier for the people to be returning to work because the kids are being educated, but also
Right.
being safe in the mind that they're not spreading the disease around and trying to control it,
Yes.
and having those contingency plans that that they can just flick to virtual if they want to on a Tuesday and still educate the children. On that.
Absolutely. And, not only in education, where it's been even more remarkable in the US in terms of making this dramatic change on a dime, has been in the area of healthcare. Because I don't know about the UK, but in the US, man, we have all kinds of rules and things, regarding reimbursement and,
Mm,
HIPAA compliance and licensure and all that. And as soon as COVID hit, and we needed to be able to continue to provide healthcare beyond, you know, trying to see if somebody had COVID or treat them with COVID and keep eliminate viral spread or limit it as much as possible and keep patients separate, really kind of rock the world of the healthcare system in a giant way. And suddenly, all these barriers that people have been trying to get rid of for years evaporated. Like now we're doing telehealth. Telehealth, I wish I had the statistic right now, but uh, telehealth has grown
I
exponentially. It
know.
is the way most people are doing healthcare right now in the US.
You
And
can't
that is,
imagine that. Could you imagine
wow.
how long that would have taken to implement if we didn't
No,
have? I mean, again, let's not make the positive out of this whole COVID thing, but I mean, it is
right.
amazing
It
that we
is.
can take a benefit from it, and the fact that people
Well,
have been able to implement this stuff so quickly
we
and
now
so
have
well.
a proof of concept. We can show that it works, it's effective, like patients like it, blah, 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 on and on and on. Same with education, right? This stuff works. And it'll work after COVID. And I think that's really kind of the remarkable thing. It forced a proof of concept, but I think the cat is out of the bag. The ship has sailed. Like this is now going to be a way, but even things like sending people home to work. So, work from home initiatives and, you know, not only has it limited viral spread, in some cases, it's really provided great cost savings and people like it. And I don't think we're ever going to go back completely back the other direction,
Again, I say there's
So
there's
kind
lots
of
of
neat.
great benefits in this, and so the fact that it's been able to switch so quickly and so successfully is testament to lots and lots of different people.
Yeah.
What's next? So again, this is North America now. Again, beforehand, you did mention, I know you're the busiest person in the world with this, and running around, but you do have an element of other regions. So Cali, you do some stuff in as well with those guys.
Tiny bit, little bit, working with Canada just to help them again. And even with the team in the EU, just a week ago, I was talking to them about helping them, at least find a source for the funding. Where is it? How do I find it? What can I hire a resource to help manage this process? Again, there's so much demand, and I think they're seeing that what we're doing in the US is really resonating. It's really again, it's a value add that Poly provides to its customers. I mean, there's no strings attached. There's no cost to what my team does. We're just there to help out, which is a really nice thing. So lots of demand from other countries, but currently we are crazy busy just focused on the US. So
And where can people go to find out more about this and to obviously apply and to contact you and to take use of this? What's the best important information to get more details on this?
So what we do for Poly is called the Poly Grants Assistance Program, or PGAP, and we actually have a landing page on the Poly website. So step one, if you want specific information, you can email us at grants@poly.com. And
Uh,
then obviously my company, Learn Design Apply, has a LinkedIn page, and we have our own website, but really super easy just to go to email us at grants@poly.com, and we can, get you pointed in the right direction.
That sounds awesome. Thank you ever so much for joining us today, Cheryl. I think there's again, a great story, a great hearts and mind piece, and again, a great opportunity for many of our customers in North America and hopefully in a wider part of the world to be able to take advantage of these grants, take advantage of the fact that the facilities are there for you to use. That will not only get you, again, as we discussed, the great hardware from Poly, but also be able to wrap into that the Zoom license again, especially poignant
Yeah.
with Zoomtopia at the moment. I'd love to get you back on and
Yeah.
talk more about this in more detail. If you've got questions from you out there in the audience, please put them in the comments, and we'll keep an eye on and monitor those. And so see if we can get you answers to that, or again, make sure you email grants@poly.com with your questions. I thank Cheryl again and wrap this
Yeah.
show up. So thank you all for joining Poly Weekly News this week. A great show, as I hope you'll agree. A really great story and a really great opportunity to be able to go and capitalize. And let's try and get a positive with all of these challenges that everyone's facing. A great positive that we can all get on board with. And so we are here every Monday, 3 p.m. UK, 4 p.m. Central European time, at 10 a.m. Eastern. I would love to hear from you on social as well. So please reach out and hook up with me, LinkedIn, Twitter. Hit that subscribe notification button and the bell icon, and I'll catch you on the next Poly Weekly News.